So, you know, I may or may not have gotten kind of burned out after the Lunar New Year event. I just decided kind of to take a break and focus on grinding that event out, and that might not have been the most healthy thing in the world. Um, However, I did get an item. I did get an item during that event, which, you know, just like for context, you know, they had this whole thing where you turn in a bunch of swarm Pokemon to an old lady. You get tablets for it. You turn in the tablets, you fight trainers, you get rewards for it. You get like the last tablet, you fight the last trainer, you get a special cosmetic for it, right? It's the, it was the Zodiac Dragon outfit. Now, I like the cosmetic, I think it looks nice. I do have to ask though, why is it tradable? I just, you know, every time they do these, like, events, I swear they're gonna keep giving me more and more ammo to use for my stance on pumpkin, like, cosmetics, pumpkin vanities, because originally I didn't have much to stand on because I had, like, the Bulbasaur, and, you know, I can kind of understand why the Bulbasaur might have been tradable, because, you know, theoretically they wanted people to, like, breed them, I guess, and, you know, you can't really, from what I remember, you can't breed an untradable Pokemon. I guess I get that. However, I don't think there's an exception for this. I don't think there's an exception for a one-time event vanity that is tradable. So this begs the question, why are the Pumpkin vanities untradable? And they are now introducing one-time event vanities that are tradable. Because it very clearly says on the thing that it's exclusive to this Lunar New Year event. So I gotta wonder, when did their stance change on this exactly? Because last I checked, they didn't want to do vanities like this because they didn't want people to mass farm them, because then the items would, some weird thing about losing their meaning, I don't know. The point is, I don't understand how they can believe that and then make a one-time event vanity. It just seems weird. Anyway, slight tangent aside, I wanted to talk about the other thing. I've started getting into, you know, grinding amulet coins. I decided to choose Route 5 because apparently I'm a masochist, I don't know. But I'm also doing this to get the Iceberg. I think I might have joined in on this grind a bit too late. We'll see. We'll see if it shows up. I'm not hopeful. But you know, sometimes I look into the chats, you know, to see what people are talking about, and I feel like something kind of caught my eye the other day. I believe, I don't remember what exactly sparked this, but I think it was somebody linking a shiny Suicune. I'm not sure. I'm sure that it's, you know, just, you know, the guy linked it, and then, like, there was a bunch of people that were, it was like, maybe it was like one person, I don't know. I just kind of hyper focused on like one comment, I'm not sure. But they were bringing up the point, they were bringing up the thing of, that's gotta be the rarest Pokemon in the game or something weird, right? And I'm saying something weird because, you know, is it the rarest Pokemon in the game? Right? I'm asking the question of what exactly constitutes as the rarest Pokemon in the game. And I've been going over this a few times in my head, and it just gives me a massive migraine every time. So I'm putting this out there to see if maybe this can get answered, because I'm extremely curious about what constitutes as the rarest Pokemon in the game, right? And I'm gonna start this off with shiny legendaries, I guess, because that's kind of what sparked this whole thing. Are shiny legendaries the rarest Pokemon in the game? I would argue that they might be the rarest obtainable Pokemon in the game. The problem with this, though, is over time, right? It's not an immediate thing. It would be a slow burn on this. Eventually, because they're still obtainable, more and more people will eventually get shiny legendaries. right? Suddenly, a one-of-a-kind shiny legendary becomes... There's 2 of them in the game. There's 3 of them in the game. It's, you know, because they're infinitely obtainable within a cycle. Eventually, this will eventually, like, snowball into a thing where multiple people have shiny legendaries, right? It's inevitable. Are the odds really low? Yeah, but it brings up the point of, are they the rarest obtainable? Probably. But then this is almost like an iceberg where it's like, okay, but then when you go below rarest obtainable, what do you get? Discontinued Pokemon is what you get. You know, I'm gonna use the best example in the room, which are 2012s, I guess, like 2013s maybe. You know, Pokemon that have catch years that you cannot obtain anymore. Could those constitute as the rarest? Well, maybe not exactly. Because, you know, there are multiple copies of Pokemon from those years. The main thing that kind of intrigues me about this, though, is 2012 specifically, and I guess maybe a little bit of 2013 in regard to this first one, which are shinies. How many 2012, 2013 shinies are there in the game? You know? Is there a way to quantify how many of these exist and, like, you know, put them into a list and go, okay, so there's this many of this shiny from 2012, 2013 in the game. Is there any way to make a list like this, or is this just a virtually impossible task? I'm not sure. Right? That's the first one. The second one is exclusively for 2012, which are Pokemon with... How do we word this? Over EV'd EVs, I guess. Pokemon with 254 and 255 EVs respectively. Now, I have seen a handful of them. When, you know, because I look it through GTL occasionally to look for random stuff that looks interesting. The main thing that's always interested me about the 2012 section is when you search by most valuable, sometimes you will see 254s and 255s in there, right? I have never seen, I'm sure they exist, but I have never seen 2 Pokemon of the exact same, even within the same species, that have a 254 or a 255. I have not seen it yet. I think I've seen, like, I think there was like, oh, I mean right now I think there's like a Golem listed that's got like a 254. I've seen that one. I think I've seen a Butterfree with 255, I'm not sure. And then, you know, because I'm an old player, I do have a 255, which is the Dragonite. And I have yet to see another 255 EV Dragonite. Now, are those... Like, is there a way to figure out how many of those are in the game and figure out which ones are one of a kind? It just seems like a weird thing, because I'm not sure if that list is possible, right? There's a lot of those Pokemon that I'm sure are just laying in dormant accounts or have just been deleted. You know, through account deletions and stuff. I'm sure there's just a lot of those that are gone. So I can't imagine making that list would be easy, especially when, you know, you can't even filter the GTL for 255s, even though, you know, you can list them. You can't really filter it by 255. So it's kind of a weird thing, I guess. So there's like those two, which is there's the old shinies, and then there's a 255, 254s. What about the Pokemon that don't have an OT? Because I've seen those. There's like Pokemon on GTL that are listed with like a blank OT tag. I've seen those listed, and it's like, are those in the running for being the rarest Pokemon in the game? I'm not sure. Fairly new phenomenon, I think, on that one. Don't know how many of those actually exist. I've tried looking through to find them, but, you know, because you can't filter by OT, I don't even know how you'd filter something that doesn't have an OT. I don't know how you physically would be able to do it, like... And then there's, like, the other thing of Pokemon with specific OTs. Like, in the entire time that I've played, at least in recent, like, in the past, like, I would say, like, 3 years that I've played, I've only ever seen one Pokemon with a Patrick OT on it. An original trainer tag of Patrick. Very old GM. Can't imagine much of his OT tag have survived over the years, because he was a GM from like 2012 to maybe like 2013, 2014. And then, you know, he basically retired. It's just the point, though, in the entire, like, 3 to 4 years that was kind of, like, looking for one, I've only ever seen one, and it was through a, PokeMMO forum listing, that I've only ever seen one Patrick OT Pokemon. So it's like, could that be in the running? I'm not sure. Probably, because, again, it's like, are there more of them that exist? Maybe. I'm sure there's all kinds of weird private collectors that hold on to those, and I'm sure there's like a weird black market for things like that. I don't know. And then there's like the weird one to me, which is North Pole Pokemon. You know, I search GTL for 2015, 2016, 2017 specifically, to see if I can spot any Pokemon from the North Pole. Because as far as I'm aware, the North Pole Hydreigon that I have is probably a one-of-a-kind. I've never seen another one. Does another one exist? Maybe? I've just never seen one. But, I have, however, seen recently, very recently, in fact, somebody listed a Sableye, a shiny Sableye from the North Pole. 2017, I think. They want like 121 mil, which, I mean, that does sound about right, I feel, maybe? Because I can't imagine there's that many North Pole shiny, like, Pokemon out there. And it again brings up the point of, is there any way to, like, figure out a list for this kind of thing? I don't know. It's not like I can filter GTL by, like, location. I kind of wish I could, but I can't. So, because I would like to see how many of those are actually underlisted. Like, how many of those are, like, undervalued on their listing price. I can't imagine there's that many listed, but it would be interesting to see. Which does bring up the question of, because, you know, you could hatch Pokemon at the North Pole. I have one as proof. It's a Hydreigon. It's a 531 modest Hydreigon? I'd have to look again. I'll have the thing up on screen. It's fine. But it's from the North Pole. And as far as I'm aware, I'm the only person that actually went out of their way to breed a North Pole 531, like a North Pole competitive Hydreigon. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only person that actually was forward-thinking enough to do that. I don't know. I used to have a lot of North Pole bred Pokemon. I got rid of pretty much all of them because I thought, you know, 2017, there's a chance they might bring back the North Pole in 2018. They did not bring back the North Pole in 2018. In fact, apparently the event sucked and they just got rid of it. So that was kind of a miscalculation on my part, but I mean, what can you predict that the devs are gonna do? I mean, they can't even, like, well, whatever, it's whatever, man. It's just a thing I wanted to talk about, I guess, and kind of bring up the point of what exactly does constitute as the rarest Pokemon in the game. Because, you know, it seems like there's a lot of Pokemon that could really qualify as, like, a one-of-a-kind Pokemon, right? And it's one of those things where, like, you know, just because... I need to preface this, right? Just because something is rare doesn't necessarily mean it's expensive, you know? Like, the shiny legendaries, I'm sure those are expensive. Could I get the same amount of money out of a 531 North Pole Hydreigon? Probably not. Even if it is a potential one of a kind. And I'm going to use RuneScape as the example, because RuneScape has a bunch of items that are like this. My favorite ones to point out are like the... What is it called? The half jug of wine. And I guess like the disc of returning. Both fairly extremely rare items that aren't anywhere near as expensive as a party hat. I think the half jug of wine is like 16 bill. And I think the disc of returning is only like 2 or 3 bills, something like that. The minimum price for a party hat's like 38 bill, I think, something like that. So even though like the half jug of wine and the disc of returning are potentially more rare than a party hat, that doesn't necessarily mean they're more expensive, even though they probably should be. Just because of, but you know, it's one of those things of party hats are a status symbol and the other ones are just more rare oddity items. But yeah, it's just something I wanted to bring up, because again, it brings up the point of what exactly is the rarest Pokemon in the game, and is there any way to figure out statistically what the rarest Pokemon in the game is? I'm not sure. I kind of wish there was a way, but I feel like something like that would be physically impossible to quantify. I'm just going to leave it at that. This has given me a migraine to think about, and I'm just going to leave it on other people to figure this out, I guess, assuming anyone actually does. It's just something I've been thinking about, and it's causing my head to go in circles, like, okay, so this could be the most rare, this could be the most rare, and it's like, they could all be the most rare thing in the game. It's like, like, they could all be the most rare Pokemon in the game. So I'm not sure. I'm just gonna leave it at that.